Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Potato Goose Podcast, where today we're going to be continuing talking about Brooklyn Nine-Nine with our reappearing guest, Krishan Kanda. Please give him a warm welcome.
Hello everyone. It's an absolute dream to be back on there again. After last time, I could just hope that I can live up to the viewers' expectations of me.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure having you here again.
You too kind.
Alright, today we're going to be talking about two other characters, which are Charles Boyle and Rosa. Can't seem to remember her last name.
Diaz. Diaz.
That's right. So first, let's focus on Charles. Let's do a little bit of an analysis on him, on his personality. So, what's your kind of first impression of Charles Boyle?
Well, immediately off the bat, when we're looking at Charles Boyle's character, we can see how he's an extremely loyal friend to Jake. He constantly gives him gasps and whatever to exaggerate his point. He's there by his side. And later on throughout the show, we can see how strong of a friend he is for everyone. For example, taking bullets for Rosa, knowing not even that it was her, but just goes to show how loyal he is to everyone on the squad, not even just Jake.
Yep, one of the best personality traits that make Charles Boyle an awesome friend.
Absolutely.
He's a hard worker as well. At the start of the show, when Terry is giving an introduction to all the detectives in the precinct, we hear mention that Charles does not possess a certain set of physical skills that would make him prevail over his peers. However, what he does have is his will to continue to work hard until he achieves his objective, his goal. Right? And that's what separates him from most. Because in one of the episodes, when they try to uncover the mystery of the glitter bomb, everyone keeps focusing and just shooting random shots, trying to blame someone, while Charles is just trying to find the actual person behind the glitter bomb, right?
So,
Without ever stopping or thinking about giving up or just blaming it on the first person he sees. So that kind of shows that even though he might not have a lot of talent, so as to say, he still compensates that with his incredibly hard work.
hmm.
I
I
think
I feel like his hardworking nature in that episode especially goes to show not only how hard working he is, but he sort of acts as a role model to everybody else in the precinct, to the captain's favorite detective, to Jake, our so-called protagonist, to everyone. He goes and shows what a real detective should and could be doing, even without this so-called physical trait that everybody else possesses.
right, right, but even so, Charles Boyle is not always the perfect guy to be around. He often likes meddling in other people's relationships, which we can see often with Jake and Amy, right? He
Yeah,
is not only
definitely.
constantly rooting for them as a couple, which only puts a lot of pressure on them. Like, as we know, the first time Jake and Amy met, his exact phrase was, "I'm hearing wedding bells." And that kind of backfired towards him because that actually made Amy sort of being opposed to the idea of her and Jake being together. And Charles himself comments that I'm my own worst enemy. And
Absolutely phenomenal.
I think, yeah, so even though he's a great and loyal friend, I mean, he can be a tiny bit irritating to be around sometimes. That's also true.
Very intense as well.
Yep. But I guess that's also what makes him such a great friend. He's incredibly loyal and he never gives up on his friends. He never once.
Honestly,
Yep.
Sorry, you can continue.
He never once gave up when all hope was thought to be lost. When Jake was in prison, he kept rooting for his friend. He kept his spirit up, even though it's very difficult for him. I think
Yeah.
that just like shows us what a great friend he is, even though he can be a tad annoying sometimes.
It's just the amount of effort he put through everything that he believes in. For example, Jake and Amy's wedding, going through all of that effort just to make up for the day. He goes and tries everything he can do to really commemorate his friend's marriage. He didn't even work this hard for his own. We don't see this sort of level of effort, though obviously there wasn't a necessary need for it. Charles doesn't really go for all of this for himself, but really strives to be the best possible friend for those around him instead. And that is something that is truly inspirational.
Yep, and another thing that I think that's kind of inspirational about Charles's character is how he just absolutely doesn't care about any social norms or standards. That he
Mm.
just continues to just simply be himself, and honestly does not care what other people think or might think about what what his uh, what his customers are like, what he enjoys doing in his free time, what
Yeah.
his interests are as well. He doesn't try to hide them or anything. He just shows them to everyone and lets the people who are okay with it or who like it become his friends. So he doesn't have to uh, sort of endure these kind of forced friendships, right? So he just like builds the circle around him of people who actually enjoy his company. I think that's
Yeah.
something we can all look up to, to just be ourselves.
Yeah, the way that Charles presents himself as well. Whatever makes him happy, that's what he's free to talk about, you know? He's not really restricted by what other people think of as normal conversation. Whatever
Yep,
he gets excited about, he shares with his friends. That's something I try to interpret in my life as well.
yep, me too. It's difficult, but Charles does sort of show us the benefits of that, right? And it shows
Yeah.
that it is possible, that we shouldn't care what other people think.
Another unique aspect to Charles, or so I should say his family, is how extremely close he can be to people. For example, with his son, with Genevieve, with his dad, with his family as a whole, you can see just how truly well loyal and like excited he can get about certain things.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, we not only see that with Jake, which is only his friend, and you're right, we also see with his family, with Nicolas.
Gosh.
Yep, and Genevieve and his cousins and everyone basically, and we can see that once again he does not care what other people think. He continues to have the sort of real little traditions with them. He keeps saying I love you to his cousins all the time. He just doesn't care what anyone thinks. He just continues to express his love towards his family and friends. I think that's just awesome.
Character that really contrasts that sort of nature. Sorry, is it Rosa, the other character we're meant to be talking about?
Exactly.
I
So let's move into Rosa.
Yeah, let's move on. A very key aspect that we see about Rosa throughout the show, and is brought up a number of times, is just how secretive her life truly is. Whether it be Terry trying to interrogate her for information, trying to see what she was like growing up, or whether it be about how she lives in her apartment. These are just some secrets that we never truly find out about watching the show. We are often told by her that she constantly moves house. Um, I believe that as soon as she let Amy over once, she moves again, which is absolutely crazy to me.
I mean, yeah, that is true. I think that was a bit of an overreaction.
Just a
And
slight one.
yeah, a little bit moving after you've been visited by someone.
Especially one of your closest friends.
Yep. But I don't think we ever get a specific reason for 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 why she acts like that with everyone and why she keeps her personal life a secret. We just see a
Mm.
lot of instances where people are stumped because they do not know anything about Rosa. Even Jake, who's
Yeah.
been Rosa's friend for the longest time of everyone in the show, still fails to know some of the most basic things about Rosa. And I think
With
that
Jake,
yep,
with Jake even being her proclaimed best friend, which she said herself throughout the show.
yep. And maybe sort of as a parallel to Boyle, I don't think she also cares about what other people think, and she's also very direct. She never tries to hide what she thinks. She
Mm.
just says it and makes people be okay with it because she's
Yeah,
terrifying.
and honestly, that kind of is quite similar to Boyle. She, she lets other people judge well, what she says and just says on her mind, though it may be in a contradictory fashion to how Charles might do it. At heart, they are quite similar characters.
I mean, that maybe could explain Charles's affection towards Rosa for such a prolonged period of time, right? Hello?
Hello. Yep.
Yeah,
See you
don't
back.
worry, we're just gonna continue recording. I'm just gonna cut it. I said the last thing I said for such a prolonged period of time. Charles's affection towards Rosa for such a prolonged period of time.
Sorry.
The last thing I said that was recorded is Charles's affection for Rosa for such a prolonged period of time.
I'm confused what to go on after that.
Just hold on, let me think. Okay, you ready?
Sure.
3, 2, 1. And that kind of shows that even though they can seem so different, that at heart, as you've said before, they are quite similar.
Mm,
So, I mean, on
exactly.
the insides, I mean, the way they think can actually be, I don't know, quite similar to each other.
Yeah. Which is quite an interesting thing to see, especially because at the start of the show, how Gina tries to make it a point how different they are.
Yep. Gina is quite an interesting character. We will certainly be commenting on her later.
I hope so.
Well, I mean, also another thing that should be worth mentioning is Rosa's violent tendencies.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, we see it all throughout the show that Rosa does not play with anyone. She certainly has her methods for dealing with certain things,
Yeah.
and I think that her relationship with Pimento certainly brought out that aspect of her personality,
Mm,
that violence, that directness of her of the expression of her emotions, right?
mm,
Because I mean, deep down, she does have some kind of emotions that she just simply tries to hide away from the outside world. But
exactly.
her relationship with Pimento really just allowed her to bond with someone on such a deep level, someone so similar to her who could finally understand her that she didn't need to,
Mm,
go around being secretive with him because he really understood that because he was
yeah.
the same way. I think that's one of the things we can actually sort of explain about Rosa's personality,
A
right?
lot of the time throughout the show, she tells us how she's either suppressing emotions or hiding them away. And I feel like that could go to show some sort of deeper meaning behind her past and the sort of thing that she's been through. For example, with her childhood and being in ballerina lessons, like the whole sequence with Terry trying to uncover her past, goes to show how she used to be a soft person. She used to have a life which many could envy, and how it's all changed. So she became such a scary person.
Yeah, but I think that in the end she sort of accepted the way that she was raised by every sort of mentor throughout her life,
Yeah,
even Miss Marian. Terry's whole point sort of backfired once again because Rosa did prove that, well, sort of proved that tough love does work.
sure, sure, yeah. But we do manage to see throughout the show, for example, God, what's her name? Becky? The
Yep.
one that stole the cocaine, yeah. With her, how she comes to a realization that the tough love she got from her parents, from Miss Miriam, from all these mentors in her past, how that's not something she wanted. And that was always something that she got regardless of her situation. She had to find a way out. She had to teach herself and become the person who she is on her own. And we
Yeah,
see her regret in the show, how she let that happen.
exactly. And what you've just said is actually a great point because, I mean, in the same episode, we see them bonding with each other precisely because of that reason. Because they were both sort of mistreated with, and they both experienced sort of this kind of I don't know, tough love, right?
Yeah,
Because both of their parents were kind of closed off for most of their childhood, which did
yeah,
not allow them to express their emotions and to really be comfortable with who they are, because they did not get that support. And I think
yeah,
that's also interesting because, well, it sort of explains how Rosa sort of suppressed her feelings and her true identity because, well, as we learned throughout the show that at one point throughout the show that she's actually bisexual
mm,
and she's known it for a long time, since seventh grade, I think.
yeah. I believe
But
so.
she lacked the ability to express it just because she could not express her emotions because of the way that her parents and everyone else treated her. That sort of created this emotional barrier that she could not overcome and express her true identity, like who she really is.
Mm,
I think that's also like what makes her a unique character throughout the show. That she's actually, I mean, not to be offensive somehow, but I think she's a very good representative of the LGBTQ community, right?
yeah,
Because I mean, that episode, I thought that it was great. It focused on the fact that Rosa still continues to be the same person, even though there were some things that we did not know about her. We did not
yeah.
know that she was bisexual, right? But that did not change a single thing about the Rosa that we all knew and loved.
It allowed us to see a part of her spirit, the battle that she was fighting on the inside. But it allowed us to respect her even more and showed how her tough exterior really does come from a place that should be recognized.
Yep, that is true. Well, I think that is enough for today.
Yeah.
That we should probably finish.
It was
Thank.
a delight to be on the show. Again, thank you.
Well, it's great having you, and I hope that we can continue to have these discussions
Of
about this
course.
wonderful show. Thanks again to everyone for listening to the Potato Goose podcast, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye.